So today this video is going to focus on our first learning target, which is distinguish between metric and English systems of measurement. And in order to start, we need to know what the base units are and what prefixes are so we can learn how to put them together so we can use the metric system correctly. So before we start any of that, I need you to find your unit organizer, which is a green sheet that should be right after the cover sheet of your Unit 1 binder packet. When you find it in slot number 3, you should write in metric, base, units, and prefixes notes. And it's not going to be worth any points because it's a no sheet, and you should do this so you can study for your assessment. The next thing you need to do is to find the sheet of paper in your binder that looks like this. It says metric, base units, and prefix notes at the top. At the right-hand corner of that, you need to put a number 3 because that's the slot we put on our assignment sheet. Now there are 4 aspects of the metric system we need to define: length, mass, volume, and temperature. So first we're going to talk about length. And length, by definition, is the amount of distance between 2 points. Now, typical English units, and we use the English system here in the United States, are miles, feet, yards, and inches. But the metric base unit is the meter. So everything we do with length in the metric system, we're going to build off the word meter. So some conversions from English to metric, so 1 meter is equal to about 39 inches. 1 kilometer is equal to about 0.6 miles. And 1 inch, which is English, is equal to about 2.54 centimeters. The next thing we're going to talk about is mass. And mass is the amount of matter in an object. It's important to know that mass and weight are not the same thing, but we're not going to cover that until a later unit. So for right now, we're just going to focus on mass being the amount of matter or stuff in an object. So because people get it mixed up with weight a lot, some typical English units are things like pounds and ounces. But our metric base unit for us is going to be the gram. I know in your reading it said the base unit is the kilogram, and that's correct. But for our sake, and the sake of using metric prefixes later, we're going to say it's the gram. One of the most important conversions to know for matter is that 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So sometimes when you go to the doctor's office, they take your weight in pounds and they switch it over to kilograms. And this is the conversion factor that the computer uses to change it from pounds to kilograms. The next aspect we're going to focus on is volume. And volume is the amount of space an object takes up. So some typical English units are quarts, pints, cups, and gallons. And in some classes we talked about how many ounces are in a cup, how many cups are in a pint, how many pints are in a quart, and how many quarts are in a gallon. And we talked a little bit about how that's really confusing. Well, in the metric system, there's only one thing. It's the liter. And we use that a little bit in the United States when we have pop in those really, really big 2-liter bottles. That's metric. We just say it's 2 liters. So some conversion factors to keep in mind as we go through this unit is that 1 liter of liquid is going to be the same as 33.8 ounces, and that 1 gallon, so like those big old gallons of milk, actually has about 3.76 liters in them. Same exact thing, just different ways of saying it. Temperature is a measure of the warmth or coolness of an object. And the typical English unit, there's really only one, is Fahrenheit. We're all really used to that. We say, oh, it's 70 degrees outside. It's really nice out today. Well, the metric, it's Celsius. And when we would say 70 degrees is super nice, they would think that 70 degrees is crazy hot, because it is. 70 degrees Celsius is way, way, way hotter than 70 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a way to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. So if we want to get to Fahrenheit and we're given something in Celsius, we would add 32 to our Celsius temperature and then multiply it by 2. And I know that's not exact, but that's just what we're going to use in class for this year. Say we want to get to Celsius and we're given a temperature in Fahrenheit. We would take our degrees in Fahrenheit, subtract 32, and then multiply it by 0.5 or 1/2. Now, the metric system uses prefixes in order to have different units. So, how can you remember the metric prefixes? What are the names of the 6 common prefixes, and what is the value? These are things that we're going to learn and use frequently, so it's a really good idea to make sure we really know this before the end of the unit. So K stands for kilo, and it has a value of 1,000. H stands for hecto, and it has a value of 100. D, and I have a big D here, and the thing is, in your reading from a couple days ago, we had this is deca. We had deca being just DA, while over here deci was just a little d. This is a good way to do it, but I think an easier way is to have a capital D for deca because it has a value of 10, with a little d for deci because it has a value of 0.1 or 1/10. So because deci is smaller than deca, we use a little d for deci versus a big D for deca. Either way is correct, but this one, big D versus a little d, is way easier. B stands for our base unit. Not really a fancy name for that. Remember that our base units we need to focus on are meter, liter, and gram. And we say it has a value of 1. C stands for centi, and a lot of you in class are giving me centimeter as a unit for length, which is totally right, and it is a good unit for length. So a centimeter is 0.01 or 1/100th of a meter. M stands for milli and has a value of 0.001 or 1/1000. So 1/1000th. So we've going from kilo of 1,000 all the way to milli, which is 1/1000th. Pretty big difference. We also talked about how they're all powers of 10. So we almost basically go over one decimal place until the decimal is on the left-hand side. Eventually we're going to learn how to convert between metric measurements, and we're going to focus a lot on moving that decimal. So these are the names of the 6 common prefixes. These are the values. But how are you going to remember them? What's an easy way? Well, there's a story to go along with that. King Henry was an English king who really enjoyed killing people. He killed all of his wives by beheading them, and he was kind of feared by all. But no one knew that he had a really dire milk allergy. Not even him. So one day, the chef of the castle served him chocolate milk. It was a brand new delicacy. Well, King Henry drank the chocolate milk, and he died right there. Using that story is how we're going to remember our metric prefix order, because King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So we're going to look at the first letter. So king, kilo, Henry, hecto, died, deca, B, base, drinking, deci, chocolate, centi, M, milk. So by remembering King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, you're going to be able to remember the order of the metric prefixes. So kilo, hecto, deca, base, deci, centi, milli. Now, because you've finished this note sheet, you should be able to finish the independent practice on the very next side. Please try all of those problems, and we're going to go over them in the beginning of class tomorrow.